Jerry Jones just came out and gave us a little bit of a headline. So this is the first headline that we get to work with. Will still like we ain't just pulling content out of nowhere.
No,
we got a headline to work with. You do you have that for us for the people listening?
You want to listen to it right now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and play.
All right, let's take a listen. This is Jerry Jones talking about trading up in the draft.
I would trade up this draft and just going in as much as you can say about it until you see what's there, who's on the other line. But yeah, I would trade up to since we're down as low as we are in those first 2 or 3 rounds. If we had a chance to, and somebody that we had really coveted was sitting at the bottom, Frederick. We're sitting down there at the bottom, and we were able to trade up and get him.
I got you.
So, first of all, can I just get flames in the chat box from my producer? Because I never would have been able to do it by myself. Can we just one time?
Salute, bro. Salute.
Just one time. So, this is what's interesting, right? And I've picked up this little strategy. Actually, let me just go ahead and do this and just hold on. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. I've picked up this, thing that I do when I'm listening to Jerry Jones talk, right? Like, when Jerry's perfectly clear with his words, when he comes out sharp, he's practiced, he's discussed, he's talked to the people around him, you know what I mean? Like he knows exactly what the public image of this phrasing needs to be. When you watch a Jerry Jones interview, oh yeah, man, we'll do X, Y, Z, and Salvation Army, we'll do this, and we love that Prescott, boom, boom, boom. That's how he sounds when he knows what's really happening, right? But when Jerry Jones hasn't rehearsed and he's thinking about it and he's just off the cuff, he goes, we talked about it, and Cooper,
a whole lot of us.
Cooper being traded away. It could be. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as I was listening to it, right, I was like, okay, so Jerry wasn't prepped to answer this. So in my mind, if a prepared Jerry was asked about trading down, he'll go, oh, never know. We'll see what happens. If the board falls to us, we'll see. But if you ask Jerry on a whim, hey, Jerry, what do you think about trade? Well, of course.
It's in the cards. Yeah.
So
Jerry.
On top of his sputter voice, as a fellow sputterer, I sputter my ass off. As a fellow sputterer, right? And Jerry's sputter voice, we got a lot of details in that sputter voice. We got rounds to look for. We got types of players that we thinking about, which leads me to believe that this is a conversation that's really happened, but Jerry wasn't ready to talk about it. Which is interesting.
Remember a couple weeks ago, sound like Jerry Madame. So a couple weeks ago, they asked Jerry, hey, what about offensive line? He said, yeah, we're looking at offensive line early, as long as there's not a Micah Parsons or CD Lamb that falls to us. So he already thinking about it, if they get into that range. And now he kind of, in a way, confirmed, unless he's just blowing smoke out his butt.
And I don't think he blowing smoke out his butt because he sputtered. Jerry Jones was very unclear with what he was thinking. Well, he didn't have a clear path to the image or the optics that he was trying to put out, so he had to sputter over it. But I think that's what's really going on. So I just wanted to quickly, before we get back into that, I just wanted to quickly talk about like the history of it. You know what I mean? So we're not really a team that does a bunch of first round moving. We normally like to sit back and let the board come to us, and which it has worked. It has worked just letting the board come to us. But we've seen, in the whole Claiborne thing, right? They'll jump up to go get Claiborne. Yeah. Or they'll jump up in day 2 to go get a Sean Lee or to go get a D-Law. Gave up a 2 and a 3 to go get D-Law. You see what I'm saying? But in the Parsons world, oh yeah, we'll go back 2 picks as long as it's somebody that we like. Oh, if it's later in the draft, yeah, to gain more picks, we'll go backwards. Even with moving forward, right? Like we moved up. Like the Eagles traded us a pick. We moved up to go get Tyler Biadasz in the 4th round or whatever. So the Cowboys will move around at every portion of the draft. It's just some is more likely to happen than others. Last year, Steve was like, hey, man, we got 11 picks. We're going to draft them, and we're going to sign them, and they're going to play. And they all made the team. All 11 of them dudes made the team. So, this team is just, I guess it just depends on the board. It just depends on who the actual player is. So, Will Steele, if you would just pull up the the 30 visit list. I think the 30 visit list is kind of some more evidence, right? Just kind of some more evidence weaving into this thing because appreciate you. Because Charles Cross was on the third. Let me just pause my minute.
Yeah.
Charles Cross is on the 30 visit list. And that ain't me making that sound or making that face like Charles Cross is a bad player or anything like that. I just don't think he's in the range. When I think about Charles Cross, there are some people in the league or just media scouts, Twitter people, whatever. There are people that think Charles Cross is the best offensive lineman on the board. What if the Cowboys think that? You understand? And I wouldn't imagine that we would use a 30 visit on somebody that we're not interested in. And you can go back into the whole Devin Lloyd and Kobe Dean conversation, right? Devin Lloyd is a little bigger than Dean. I guess Dean's the smaller character. So if we had to pick out of one of those two guys, we got a 30 visit with Lloyd, which makes me feel bad about the idea that we can get Dean. It's not like Dean's not on the list because, the Cowboys think he's so good, we won't get him. Fucking Charles Cross on the list. Jordan Davis on the list. You see what I'm saying? So if it's anybody like that, I would imagine if the Cowboys are going to trade up in the first round, it got to be a dude. It got to be a dude. Now, how many dudes in this class are worth trading up for? Will Steele, what you think? How many dudes at the top of this thing do you think the Cowboys are interested in and that we could trade up for?
I've had this conversation a few times with some of the fans. There's not too many that I'm willing to come up for that high, like in the 12 to 15 range. I think I'm chilling. Now, once you start getting around 18, 19, 20, if our guy Jordan Davis is there, obviously if Charles Cross is there, that's one of those tackles you can see being there for 10 years on the left side, right side, wherever the hell you want him. But not too many, bro. And that's not a knock on these players. It's just that I've been saying this for months. You just chill and sit back. You're going to get a dude, a really good player, I think, at 24. I almost would rather trade back.
We're definitely going to get there at some point. But just looking at this list, bro, like there are some guys that are clearly, I don't want to say clearly, but relatively out of our range. There are guys that are in our range. There's these other guys, right? Something else that just stuck out about this list, right? We talk about small school guys, right? Like Jackson State on the list.
Yeah.
Find it interesting.
A couple HBCU dudes are on the list, and I think both of them were former Power 5 players that transferred.
Fair enough. That makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
So just looking at this list, right, guys that are out of our range, I feel like they're out of our range, but they're guys that because of whatever reason in the draft, they could fall. Like I understand Chris Olave, Traylon Burks. That makes sense, but Drake London's there.
Mm-hmm.
Drake London's another guy that looks to be like a top 10 guy, top 10 guy, depending on how some of these guys feel. He seems like a guy that's out of reach. Would you trade up for Drake London, Will Steele?
No.
I agree. Also, something else too that I think goes into consideration with this list. If you miss out on Drake London, you'll be fine with Olave and Burks. You're not missing much, I would say. Like you miss a little bit, but not too much. I think wide receiver is just more so about preference.
Can I ask you this about Drake? Do we have Drake London at home? Gallup?
Yeah, we got Drake London at home.
I'm just asking.
We got Drake London at home.
All right.
Sure. We have an at-home version. This don't look like no McDonald's.
Can we get Drake London? We got Drake London at home. Now sit down. Hi, Steven down.
Shit, paprika and Kim. Sure, but if you miss out on Drake London and get any of these other receivers, you'll be fine. I think once Charles Cross is gone, your offensive tackle group automatically goes not elite no more. That makes sense?
Yeah, you're basically saying Neal's gone, Cross is gone, and who's the other one I'm missing? Ekwonu.
Yes. So I'm just assuming what have to happen in a trade up situation. And if y'all disagree, chat box, please feel free to let me know. Also, the phones are lit. They're always lit. Somebody on there right now, don't leave. What I was talking about? I was talking about wide receivers.
Trading up with the guards, line. Yeah. Cool. Or tackles, I'm sorry.
Tackles. If I was to trade up, it'll like the pick would have to meet me halfway. Right. So my only guys that I would consider, sure, if Charles Cross is one of those guys, if Jordan Davis is one of those guys, sure, like if Derek Stingley is one of those guys, they would have to be at like, and I would love to get a trade chart at some point. Ain't got to be right now, just to know what we would have to give up. But like, if them dudes end up around 15 or so, and we can give up a third and a fifth to get there, that make a little sense for a elite player. You feel me?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
But it got to be one of them dudes, though. Go ahead.
See, I've struggled with coming up because we need those damn picks, but it would definitely have to be one of 2 or 3 players tops, man. Like we talked about it, Neal, Ekwonu, Cross, Jordan Davis. I mean, that's kind of where it stops with me.
I think if we keep all of our picks, I think that's the best way to address everything that we need, and I think that's the best way to get the result that you want. If you're going to trade up to get a player, you might not. I don't think you're gonna. Damn, Will. So look, just me thinking about this on the fly, right? If you do trade up for a pick, it's the player that you get is not gonna fix one of your needs that we feel like are like dire needs. So a dire need for me, what I think is,
I see
what I think a dire need is for us is like guard, linebacker, wide receiver, right? If we trade up, it's gonna be for Derek Stingley, Charles Cross, or Jordan Davis. None of them dudes address wide receiver, guard, or linebacker. So you're going to give up a pick in those rounds where you would have to address those players. You would have to sacrifice a monster on the field to summon Jordan Davis or Derek Stingley or Charles Cross. Will, are you willing to do that? Chat box, are you willing to do that? And I love.
Damn, that's a tough. I see what you're saying. Like tackle's not an immediate need at this moment, but how many of those 3 tackles can slide in guard and rock out there for a little bit? Then we got to think about that.
Now, see, Ikeem and Evan can do it.
Cross.
Ikeem and Evan definitely can do it. Cross ain't that guy.
So,
Cross ain't that guy. And then watch this though. And we're talking about Charles Cross, but he's the only guy of the 3 that we've seen projected as a guy that could fall. You don't see no mocks about Ikeem falling to the teams or Neal falling to the teams. Cross the only one that falls to the teams. So so them dudes that can play guard, I don't think they're gonna be there. Cross might be the only dude that's there, and he don't play guard.
He don't play guard. I'm real stubborn, and I'm trying to get moved off of this. I want my tackle to play this year, right? And if we're thinking negatively here, he probably will because Tyron Smith is going to get hurt. But
also, to be fair, if we draft Charles Cross, then what's his face just got to sit down again.
Still, but I was just going there. Still is your swing now, which I mean that addresses depth. You know, that addresses depth. So you know what? I'm sitting here talking about he can't play. You know what? He will play. I think Charles Cross will come in and he'll take over for Steele unless Steele just doesn't give that up. We saw a nice jump. What if he makes another jump in year 3? I mean, that's great for Dallas, but now you kind of got that overhaul there, and now Steele or Cross, whoever loses the hell out, is your backup.